Welcome to Andrew Talks with your host, Andrew.
Hello, and welcome back to another Andrew Talks. Today, I have invited Penny, who is currently a service designer at Investec. Previously, we worked together while at Investec, and I thought it would be great to have Penny on to talk about how she is using AI. Penny, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Andrew. It's so lovely to chat to you again after so long. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I agree. It's
Well,
great to talk to you again. I miss all our chats while we were at Investec, and just you, the entire design team, and the analytics team getting together and talking and discussing how to make Investec better.
yeah, I do miss those days.
Penny, do you want to just give a brief introduction about who you are, what you do?
Well, how long have you got? But okay, I'll give you I'll give you a little bit of a whistle stop tour of who I am. So, as you said, a service designer. I've kind of done quite a few bits of the design process, from UX design to product design, and now I'm doing service design, which is great because I like to think of whole experiences rather than pieces of the experience. So looking at the holistic experience, it really does. I'm really passionate about it actually, because there's so many times that things are missed and things fall through the cracks. So that's really fascinating for me to make sure that from an experience, a client or a whoever is using your service has a good experience. I love to create. I enjoy making stuff. I find a lot of joy in making things that speak to the heart, especially. Um, so very empathic in my approach to anything that I do make. I always think about how it's going to make the other person feel. So even if I'm making a gift or something, I will always think about the recipient of said gift. When it comes to I simply love it. I think it's a game changer. Yes, we have to be critical in our thinking with anything new. So when it comes to AI, I have been experimenting quite a lot. That's just a little bit about me.
No, thank you so much for that. And I wanted to reach out to you on this because you have been very enthusiastic about AI, especially on LinkedIn. And I've been reading all of your posts, and I thought it would be great to have you on to talk about this. And while we will be talking about more from a creative designer and from an analyst point of view, I do want to talk a little bit about AI in general, just
Sure.
how AI is impacting your life, even on a personal level. So, first things first, how do you see AI helping you as a service designer?
Oh my gosh, it has been phenomenal, to say the least. It helps me create stuff that I couldn't create before. It broadens my creativity, my thinking. I can brainstorm. AI is very good at hallucinating, so I can push the boundaries and use that part of it to say, you know, give it a prompt to say, give me something that's not been done before, or things like that. And the inspiration that I get and the thinking and the broadening is just, I find it the most amazing partner. And remember, it's a partner. It doesn't take over. It's not a replacement. I don't see it as a replacement, but I see it as that is that help that I can quickly iterate on something and talk through it. And I would say talk through it because I actually do talk to it. I don't. So ChatGPT is my go-to, and I talk to it through my iPad. I do not like the typing. So I'm always talking to it. It's like that sparring partner, where you can spar and like brainstorm ideas and just like co-create. And remember that, like for me, I see AI as that. Normally it takes a team to refine and to grow. That the collective brain that brings so much more to it. I feel like AI is a team in itself that I can just go to and like brainstorm all of my ideas and refine. And I think it's fantastic.
No, I agree. As an analyst, I've been using it to push the boundaries of what I can do. So one of the things I've been working on is called a JSON schema, and it's be able to take what we use in digital analytics with the data layer and do an automatic validation. So even before the developers hand it back for our checks, it could actually spot check right then and there. And I've been using it because there are parts of the justice schema I didn't know about before, and using it as a partner is giving me new ideas, and I've been able to take it to levels that we never even thought was
Exactly.
possible.
Exactly. I think that is like just that's the power I find in it.
Something I mentioned recently, I'm now starting to take the transcripts from these podcasts. I put it into Copilot and I allow it to scrape all of the content through and then give me suggestions of what were the talking points and what should the title of the podcast be. And I would never have came up with some of the more creative ideas. So I use it as a starting point. It gave me some ideas and then how can I enhance it to make it just that little bit better?
Exactly. So I use ChatGPT in the same way. I don't tend to use Copilot. Um, I just find that ChatGPT is it can do everything I need it to do. And what I really like about ChatGPT is that I can create my custom GPTs. So, what I found is that, like, let's just say I want to create a data analyst. I'm going to use data analyst. Let's say I wanted to create a data analyst. I can create my GPT to have all of the attributes that I need in a data analyst. And I can then go and feed it transcripts and whatever, and it will give me consistent information, except that it grows in experience as I chat to it and as I give it new stuff, as we have these back and forths. I think it's great. It's great. It's great.
Nah, I've been on my phone, I've been testing things like, not just the Copilot, but Gemini and DeepSeek. Uh,
Hmm.
so with Seek, I found that one actually it has given me more accurate information, more in depth, but the training data is nowhere near as new as things like ChatGPT or Copilot. But I
Okay.
do want to check out more of this ChatGPT that you're talking about, where you're creating essentially personalities in it to
Yep.
make it think along the lines of just like an analyst or a designer.
Exactly. I kind of created my own little design team. So I have a UX researcher. I have a reviewer who actually does like UI heuristics and heuristic evaluations on my designs and gives me some feedback. I have a writer. I have a service designer. I have a product owner as well. So I have different roles that can give me the information I need. I even have a GPT that is a mentor in terms of reviewing my work and giving me guidelines on how to improve and challenging my thinking because I designed it that way. And so that's where I think the power of AI lies. I can't even begin to explain.
No, I think that's great. But I do want to get your opinion on this. I know you talk about how AI is going to be more of a partner, and you're using this to create all these different personalities.
Mhm.
My question is, do you think AI will not replace people? Because I agree with that. But do you think it would keep in check how many people a company needs to hire within a team because of AI?
So with every gain, there is a loss. 100%. You know, we can think back to the Industrial Revolution. People lost their jobs. You can think of so many, scenarios where advancement and innovation has actually replaced people. And I don't think that this is different. I actually think this is on a whole nother level for me because this is about thinking. This is about your brain. Before it was manual work and different things, but this is about thinking and reasoning and that thing that makes us as humans special. So is it different? Yes. Oh my gosh, on a whole nother level, it is different. So I do see the challenge and the things that make people scared about it, and rightfully so. But to me, it started in the little things already. This is not a new thing, right? This is just now just exploded. But for example, I know there was a time we were encouraged to, with this password, keep your password safe and cast password locks and all this malarkey. And now he was like, I am not outsourcing my brain. And I refuse. I refuse to have a password keeper for the fact that I did not want to rely on something to remember my password because I felt that that was outsourcing my brain. And I never did it, but this is like just like this is like so much more. And the person who didn't want to even outsource her brain to remember a password is now outsourcing her brain for, but I don't see it as outsourcing my brain. I see it as enhancing my brain.
I agree. Is it all about enhancing? Is about we
Yeah.
being able to collect more information that we than we could ever remember at a single
I know,
time.
isn't? Mm.
So you mentioned thinking earlier, and one of the things that I always believe in is a computer cannot think. It can only regurgitate what is already known out there. So whenever you talk about thinking, is it around that you believe that the AI is thinking, or is it a new way of thinking of how to utilize AI to be more of a partner?
I think it's both. So I think it changes our thinking in in the way we utilize a tool, because AI can be a tool. And yes, you say that computers don't think. However, this is learning from humans. So just from my own interaction with AI, it has learned how I respond. It has learned how I think. So when it responds to me, it responds in a way that appeals to me. It responds in a way that resonates with me, if you know what I mean. So when I say it's about thinking, it's about tapping into that part of us. And remember, we don't have the access to all of the information that AI does. Just by it learning how it thinks and it morphs and it changes, it's kind of using how the brain can change and how we as humans change. Because as we learn more, our thinking changes, the way we behave changes, well, sometimes. But when I say it's about thinking, it's about how our brains work, and it's kind of modeling that. And that's the part I say about thinking. When I say it's about thinking, it is not tapping into, every other innovation has been about something else, but never about the brain or the human mind and how that evolves over time. So that's what I mean.
That is really interesting. It's I never once thought about the fact that it is modeling my own responses and tailoring it to match my own needs. So, not whenever you mentioned that, I started thinking about that whenever was first looking up things around JSON schema, it was giving me the newest version of it. But as
Uh-huh.
it has realized, I've been talking more and more around draft 7.0. It's been tailoring all of the responses since then to that particular version of a JSON schema creation. So that is interesting. It is essentially model. If you think about we as people who think, it's all about how we model it, and that's how it's doing it as well.
Yeah, because remember, like we learn from our past experiences. So it's easy to say, well, because I also thought of it. I thought, well, actually, it's just looking at my previous chats, and you know, making a connection via that, blah blah blah, and that's how it's coming up with the thing. But actually, if you think about how the brain works as well, is that we and I'm no expert, I'm not a brain person. We learn from our past experiences. We draw on those experiences when faced in a different situation or similar situation. We draw on all of the things that is in our memory bank that we sometimes won't even realize or even know is there. But we tap into those memories. We tap into those experiences of the past, of our childhood that we can't even remember. But our brain is so powerful that it connects everything and it brings it to the fore when we need it, even though we have no idea where those things came from. So I see AI as a challenge to the mind, really, and the thinking, and I see it modeled around how we think.
That's extremely fascinating. I actually would love to just take that away and just digest that some more and come back to you and talk more about it.
It's fascinating. I mean, it's just in my observations. I'm not the expert here in any way, shape, or form, but it's just what I've noticed, and I'm very keen on understanding the mind and how the brain works as well. So I would also like to explore that a little bit further as well.
Yeah. Well, it's something which I'm sure you've heard me talk about before at Investec, where someone's perception is their reality. So even though it may not be true, from your perception, it is true.
Yeah.
So now you talked a lot about as a designer, you want to refine things visually that feels natural, not forced. And I just
Yes.
would love to just unpack that a little more. So do you feel that AI it creating designs first is impeding on your area?
So that comes from my experience of using AI to not to design, but to create the actual product. So I've been using things like Replit and Lovable and those kinds of AI code generators, right? And what I find is that in those kinds of platforms, you can start with a prompt. And yes, it's beautiful. It just generates a whole product for you based on your prompt, right? And it's so satisfying. But I think where the failure comes in is, and yes, you can see that visually, but to change it, as a designer, I want to click on something, move it about, just move things about, and it should do it. And I can use my intuition, and it's just so much quicker. Whereas what I'm finding with things like Replit and Lovable and all the others is I have to prompt it to change something. I have to prompt it to say, oh, can you put the icon next to the label so that it's not like in separate lines. I could have just done that really quickly. So what I find is that these tools, and maybe it wasn't designed for designers, it wasn't built for designers, but what it does is it generates it, and then you have to prompt your way through changes and refinements. Whereas it generates the codes for developers, so they could go into the code and fix things. Whereas a designer, I can't go into the UI and fix it. I have to prompt the UI changes. And that's what I talk about, that it's not actually designed for us. Because a lot of the developers in the world these days are encouraged to use AI to do things. You still need a designer to refine it.
No, I agree. It's one of the things where you kind of wish that they did not give you view access only. You want them to give you edit access.
Exactly. And if I edit it, code needs to update. Just like if I prompt it, the code updates. So why can't I move it, just shift it about and let the code update automatically?
And maybe this is just the early days where they're first building this and they want to have that strict control. But later on, hopefully, they will take your suggestions of if you are a designer, allow you to do your job. Allow where They're giving you the ideas, they're giving you the starting point, but then you take it and you make it that little bit further and have that designer
Exactly.
eye.
Make it as intuitive for a designer as you do for a developer. Developers can prompt, start, and refine in the way that is natural for them. But from a designer, I have to prompt every single change. Whereas if I start with a prompt and then use what's natural for me to refine, I think it would be so much better.
And are there any AI tools out there that you found that is most helpful to you as a designer?
ChatGPT is my number one for designing for sure, because it's like my jam partner. I can explore lots of ideas, I ideate, I can brainstorm. It's everything in one, I would say. That would be my number one go to. I'm a fan of Adobe products. I have always been a fan of Adobe products, so a little bit biased from me in that regard. But I love Adobe Firefly mainly because I can, for things like now I can also I can generate images in ChatGPT, but those are more like the one-off images that I need. When I go to Firefly, those are the things I need for like creating my storyboards. So if I create a storyboard, I want my imagery to be consistent in terms of like if I'm doing a cartoon storyboard, for example, in a cartoon, a comic style, for example, I would generate the first image and then use that as the reference so that the next lot is the same in the same style. So I can just like repetitively create different images that look the same, and that creates that consistency for me that I need. Uh, and also, I can just spin up anytime I need a presentation background for something. Firefly is beautiful for that. I do like Adobe Firefly. And then I would say that I like Replit. I do like Replit, even though there are some constraints. But what is the world of a designer without constraints? It's normal. So it's normal to have constraints because I've just explored so much with it that I'm becoming familiar with it in terms of what it needs and how I feed it. Because I nowadays I can get a fairly good outcome based on what I give it. And I've fed it Figma files, I've fed it all sorts of things. They have, in some small way, listened to designers in that they have allowed us now, you can click on an element and you can update the color codes and you can do small minor tweaks. It's still not where it should be, but it's better than where it was.
Now that is great. But I kinda wanna skip ahead to one of my other questions before we go to my next one, but
Uh-huh,
just because you brought up Firefly, and
uh-huh.
I saw that you talked a lot about Firefly on LinkedIn, so it was one of the funny things where hearing the passion in your voice now on it, because as a Adobe Analytics legacy person from the days before it was known as Adobe Analytics, it was known as Armchair Site Catalyst, and now using the Adobe Podcast for actually doing the podcast as a tool. If Adobe did come to you and ask you to lead the Firefly team to make this to a 100% perfect for designers, what would you do?
Oh my God. That is a difficult question. Ah,
Only the difficult questions on here.
oh my gosh, very difficult question. But if the world was in my hands with
Well,
Adobe
not
Firefly,
I was gonna say not the world. You had the Firefly in your hand.
if I have Firefly in my hand, oh my God. I'd first learn everything I could learn about it, to be honest with you, because I don't know the inner workings of Firefly and all of its capabilities. I'm merely a user. And I think what I've seen and the changes I've seen, I'm liking. But I think I would, well, This is a hard one. I would kind of maybe invite diverse design minds as a thing to train the model on what it could be like for designers, because remember, I don't have every um, aspect of design, but if we have different designers and different minds coming together to train a model, and not just, not just commercial, because I think sometimes things can be very commercial in the aesthetics and not very user centered, if you know what I mean, or practical in a way. It's very marketing type aesthetics. And I think what I would definitely improve is that there is this so you can use an image as a and I need to get the correct wording here, because you can use an image as a reference or as a composition. But what it tends to do is, if you use it as a composition because maybe you want the same angle, but you maybe just want a different take in terms of, yes, I want you to be facing forward, but maybe now I want you to hold a phone, or maybe now I want you to be in front of a computer, or maybe now I need you to be sitting in a cab. Those kinds of the composition element, I find it then just generates on the same thing, and it doesn't explore the other part of your prompt. Well, I don't know how I feel about those things. And even if I say as a reference, then I have the effect that it may change the whole look of the person or the image that it created. So there are drawbacks that if there was something I'd fix, I would fix that. Where it can keep the reference and composition, but maybe change the scene. You should be able to use an image and change it. So let's just say I have prompted and I got an image of a woman in, for a persona or a storyboard. I want to use that same image or person, but in different situations. That is one thing I would definitely improve.
So, essentially, like, you click on the person, you lock that layer, and then you're able to change everything else.
Yeah, and you can be able to then prompt using that as the base, but it mustn't change that. It can change it in maybe forward facing, side view, whatever, that kind of view. Uh, it's just so that you get different angles, but it shouldn't change the outline of the person, if you know what I mean. I don't know
I
how to
know
explain.
exactly what you mean, but I think this goes back to what you're talking about, like, where you use it as a ability to get you started, but then allow you as a designer to go in and actually do something with it. So, like, you mentioned, like, make it maybe facing left or facing right, where you could click on the head and you could drag it to the left, and it would naturally move it to be a natural flow, like the person was
Yeah.
actually looking to the left.
Yeah, maybe have some sliders in there where you can tweak something. It would be wonderful if that could be a thing. But like, just for example, the other day I was looking to change something. So I really created an image using Figma of all things. I drew something, and created a map, and I wanted to manipulate that map using AI, but I couldn't do that. I mean, I can do that in ChatGPT, but it changes the whole image, and I didn't want it to change the image. All I wanted to do was change the image I have, apply an effect to it, just like you would in Adobe Premiere Pro, for example, if you wanted, or After Effects, if you wanted to put an effect on a video. I want to be able to do that on an image as well using AI, and I couldn't find anything that could do that for me unless I don't know about it. I couldn't find something that I could just say, here's my image, change it to be XYZ.
I hope that Adobe will come to you and go, "Penny, I want you to come and lead and at least be part of the board that helps guide Firefly to its next stage."
Oh, I'd love it. I'd love it if I could just have any kind of impact on any design for the future, for sure.
I've tried multiple podcast solutions out there, and each time I wrote to them and I said, I don't want to just be a user. I want to be someone who helps guide this because I'm going to be selfish. I want it to be as perfect for me as possible. And if it's going to be perfect for me, I hope it will be perfect for everyone else.
There's one thing using a product or a service. There's another thing when those services tap into its users to find out how things are going and getting the insights from a user perspective, because sometimes as designers we can be blinded. We do have blind spots, and we can, take things for granted sometimes. With the best will in the world, we'll never get it 100% correct. So it's always good to listen to your users.
Amazing. Now, I want you to imagine that you have a crystal ball because based off of everything we're saying, right now, AI is not where it should be to be a true companion for a designer. How much time do you think it would take until AI would be that true companion, that true partner that's sitting right there with you at the desk?
I think it's a true companion right now, to be honest. I don't think it's not. I think the hesitation or the adoption from humans is slower. But I think I have seen that as people have used it and seen the potential, the more they are using it. So for me, I have been using it for more than a year. And for me, it is a companion. I do everything. I double check myself. I'll write something. And I think a lot of people, based on conversations that I've heard or things that people have said, they use it to like, oh, write me this, write me that, give it like instructions. But I think a true companion is not somebody. So I like to use it as more of a help me improve what I already have, challenge my thinking, ask me those questions that I may not have considered. So, for example, I will write something and say, "Here's what I've written. Now I need you to think about it." And you know what? A lot of people start with the writing bit, but I think it is already a true companion and a partner. It's just about us and how we use it that makes the difference, because I can use it to just do simple stuff, or I can really push the boundaries, or I can think of things in a very different way. I think how we use it is based on our own limitations, on how we think about it.
That's interesting. For me, I don't think it's quite there as a true companion because there are times that I prompted it to help me with something and it was
Hmm.
unable to. I have seen
Really?
that it has gotten better, but it hasn't been able to get me there. I would say right now, if I prompt it to tell me exactly what I want, is there. But as a companion, I would want it to also help think beyond just what I am writing. So not be so
Mhm.
black and white.
Well, I have a different experience, and I'm going to ask you this question: what are you using?
Well, I am mostly using Copilot because that
Okay,
is what the license I have access to. And
okay,
it's supposed to be fully integrated with the Microsoft tools.
okay. So I tried Copilot in the beginning stages, and I didn't like the outcome and the output, and I was like, meh. So I ditched it, to be honest, and I don't use it. So when I'm talking, I'm not referencing Copilot in any way, shape, or form. There are a lot of people who swear by Copilot and use it all the time. I just cannot. I just cannot use it. I would rather take a transcript and put it into ChatGPT. That's my process. I don't know. I just can't use Copilot, unfortunately. So I can't really comment on that part of it because your experience and my experience is very different.
And that's the thing. It's always going to be based off of our own perspective.
Yeah.
I would have thought that you would have said it probably needs to be a little bit more time, especially the tools out there where it's now allowing you to really take over as a designer.
This thing, well, there's various parts to design, right? There's a lot of things. There's a lot of aspects to design. I have used it in research, planning my research, analyzing my output, anonymizing the data, synthesizing. I've done so much already with it. And that's just the simple stuff. It's really not even the hard stuff. And so that's why I say it's such a companion that you can get. It's like having a psychologist, a teacher, a mentor, a coach, a poet, a writer, everything in one thing. I find it fascinating. I can do so much. I was listening to another podcast recently, and the conversation was also around, well, you have to go through the pains of writing yourself to know what it is to be a writer. You get more skill by, for sure, by doing it manually, but who today uses a typewriter to type a letter or type something? Nobody, unless you want to be retro. But everybody uses a word processor that checks your spelling anyway. So I don't see what's the big deal when you have a speeding up that process for you. Just like, we don't use a typewriter to type anymore. We now use word processors.
Yeah. And if you think about it, word processor, while it does editing, it hasn't
Yeah,
replaced the editor. It's just enhanced the editor.
exactly. So AI just like
Mm.
makes that even faster and so much more advanced. So, and it can go and do some research for you. So that's what I wanted to mention when you mentioned about the responses that you're getting back. But I've discovered that you're using Copilot. But with AI with
Don't look down on me,
ChatGPT,
please.
I'm not looking down on you. There's no judgment here, no judgment whatsoever. But what I wanted to say to you at that point was that with ChatGPT, I can have deep research, and I love deep research because it goes and it does that research and looks for things outside of my realm and capability, which for me, I think it's phenomenal.
And I do believe AI is phenomenal. I just don't believe it's a true companion yet. I think it's a good way there. I think it's a lot better now than it was a year ago. And I do believe at some point it will become what I would consider a true companion. For me, I would look at it as a true companion as another analyst who's sitting right there next to me at the desk, or having a designer sitting next to me to reflect on how does this look.
Mm. Um, so you and I are going to agree to disagree because I think it's already there as a true
Mhm.
companion, and I'm only talking ChatGPT, yeah, right now. There's so many more tools, but if I just talk ChatGPT, that is like my true companion because actually I use it every day for everything. I use it for my journaling. I use it for just to think through things and to process things. I use it for virtually everything. So for me, it's a true companion, not in one aspect. That's what makes it even more powerful. And AI is growing every single day. What it was last month. So there was thinking I had done at the beginning of the year, not even at the end of last year, I had this thinking about how the design process will change using AI. And me, the thinking I had then is like old. It's like, no, it's not sufficient. It was sufficient for that time, but not right now. It's dead in the water because of the advancement.
That I perfectly understand. And I don't think it's ever going to be a let's agree to disagree. It's about perception. Your
Yeah.
perception is already there. My perception is close, but it's not there yet.
I think you have to
So
come over to the dark side, Andrew.
I hope it's not the dark side. So just to wrap up our thoughts on AI, Is there anything else that you want to talk about that's related to AI that we haven't discussed so far?
A lot of times people talk about AI as this evil thing, um, et cetera, and it's going to take over the world and whatever. However, I think with everything, there is good and bad. Things went online. We had dot-com boom. Everything was online. We have friendships being formed online. And there are good things and there are bad things that happen in those spaces. And at the end of the day, it's down to us as humans to shape the tools of the future. And I think tools can be used for good or for bad. And I think that we should still be critical and apply a critical mindset to everything and make sure that we question for sure. But I think good people need to be part of the shaping because AI is learning from us as humans. If we don't, as good people, I consider us good people. If we don't get involved in it and shape the tools of tomorrow, we will cause problems. And I think that with every advancement throughout history, there have been drawbacks. There have been good things and there have been bad things. It is the way life is. There's always light and shade. Um, and we just need to be know which side we're on.
I could not agree more on that one. And without going into any spoilers of the last talking point, I agree with you. AI is not evil per se.
Mm-mm. Mm,
It's just a tool. And just
mm.
like with any tool, it's not the tool that is evil. It is the person who is using the tool that causes it to be evil.
Exactly.
So I remember the early days of the computers. If you think about it,
Yeah.
today, they always tell you be careful what you're clicking on.
Hmm.
But back then, you you never thought about that. I remember receiving an email and saying, "Coca-Cola would like to give you a free cup holder. Click here to redeem it." And when you click
Mm.
it, it took your CD tray and popped it out.
Oh,
And I
wow.
just thought that was absolutely amazing, just the joke behind it, like, "Oh, you can use a CD tray as a cup holder." But nowadays, if I ever saw that same link, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be curious. I wouldn't click on it because my first thought is, "Okay, what are they about to do to my computer?"
Yeah.
So, a computer itself is not evil, but the
No,
people who are using it can use it for evil.
100%. There's still ethics involved in anything that we do.
Now, I do wanna wrap this up on one of your short stories,
Hmm.
and it was about the mirror.
Yeah.
So it was, "The mirror, upon hearing this, flickered gently. I do not choose," it said. "I only reflect. I only become what you make me." And I
Exactly.
absolutely love this.
Thank you. Hmm.
So, I just wondering what caused you to write this? What was your headspace when you were putting it together?
I have been, and I haven't written for a while now, but because I'm so busy, but I have been writing about AI and it gave me a moment of reflection like, how much am I giving AI? Because we all have doubts and fears and, we think about things and other people talk and it makes you think a little bit more. And I was reflecting on AI and what we do. And it talks to what I just said just now about reshaping it. It's we giving it information, and what you give is what you're going to get back, right? Like I said earlier as well, it's learned from me how I like my responses, based on chats. Do I prefer this or do I prefer that? And it responds in that way. So, in that way, I was kind of reflecting on there are times we think, oh, what if AI is got. I actually had the question, well, what if AI takes over the world? Because a lot of times, my daughter especially said, she thinks of iRobot and how AI is going to take over the world and all of this here. And so it kind of made me think about all of this. And I was just like, well, what if uh, ChatGPT, what if AI takes over the world? And then I kind of asked ChatGPT, like, what if AI takes over the world? How are we going to be and whatever? And it came back with a very wonderful response on how it can take over the world, which I thought was fascinating. And so I then said, well, I kind of need to write a story about this. And that's kind of how that evolved. It's because what we pour into it essentially is what we're going to get back.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I think about robots taking over the world, the first 2 who come to my mind are Matrix and
Yeah.
Terminator.
Which one would you prefer?
Neither one. At least, I guess if you think about it, in Terminator, you know you're being taken over and there's nothing you can do about it. But at least with the Matrix, they put you into a deep sleep where you don't
So
realize you're
you
just
don't
a
know.
battery.
Well, there you go. There's hope for us. We can either like just terminate or we can be the battery and fuel it.
Yep. And like for me, it was very thought provoking just because AI in itself is not racist or it doesn't have any ways of thinking along those lines. It's only regurgitating what is being fed in.
I don't know how I feel about that. The reason I say that is because humans created it, right? AI did not come from nothing. It was created by humans. As humans, we are inherently biased based on our history, our experiences, etc., etc. So, could there be some kind of bias within it? I think there could be because it was created by humans. That's what I think.
I agree with you. There are could be some bias in
Hmm.
that, but it also depends on the type of data that you feed it. I mean, it's just like food for us.
True.
If you eat junk, you're going to get junk out of you. If you're feeding it with a whole bunch of junk training data, it's going
Yeah.
to get corrupted.
But how do we know what it was trained on, if you know what I mean? Well, I suppose we're all contributing into ChatGPT's memory bank. But how do I know if it's only drawing on my input or if it's drawing from someone else's input? I don't know. So could there be bias? Question mark.
Yeah. I would have to look up exactly which one it was, but I remember I wanna say it was ChatGPT that they said that they were given permission through a arrangement they have with Reddit to actually feed in all of the Reddit board.
Really
Yeah. Um,
interesting.
yeah, so here it is. OpenAI will use Reddit content to train ChatGPT, and that was on the 17th of May, 2024.
Okay, interesting. So there's variety of stuff on there.
Exactly, and you as we all know, Reddit has a lot of good and a lot of bad,
You
depending on
see what
which
I
boards
mean?
they're on.
It's all about people at the end of the day. We shape the tools of the future. And I would rather be on the right side of that change in terms of influencing it for good.
If we think about the Terminator movie, it was trained to eliminate threats, and based off of all the data that it was consuming, it determined that human is a threat to humans.
Oh man, do we need anything to tell us that?
No,
Oh, we
but
are so
since it was
flawed.
determined to eliminate threats, it means it had to eliminate humans.
And
So
as
to save
humans,
humans,
yeah.
they had to eliminate humans.
True.
I think this has been an absolutely amazing time, and we shouldn't just wait to jump on a podcast to talk about AI. We should definitely get together
Yes.
again.
That is so true, Andrew. You are absolutely right. This has been a wonderful conversation. And, I could talk for hours on end. I could literally talk for hours on end about AI and everything. So yeah, it's been wonderful.
Mhm.
But yes, you're right. We shouldn't wait for a podcast to do it.
Yep. And if you ever do want to jump on a podcast to discuss this again, I'm more than happy to invite you on and we can talk about this for another hour or two.
For sure. I'd be happy to.
Yep. And if there's anyone else out there who wants to jump on and have a conversation about something related to digital, feel free to reach out and let's jump on.
Sure, sure.
Yep.
I'm sure there's quite a few people I can talk to that would be very keen.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Penny, for joining on this episode. And for all those listeners out there, keep on analyzing.
Thank you, Andrew. It's been great.